The mother of a man who was shot and killed by Gastonia police in 2022 has now filed a wrongful death lawsuit. The complaint is against the city of Gastonia and 3 officers who were involved in her son's death. Well, officers responded to a kidnapping call from a daycare center more than 3 years ago. And daycare employees now reported Jason Lipscomb took 2 young boys from the business without authorization. Well, officers confronted Lipscomb, who they say ran from police and then hopped into a car. Investigators say Lipscomb ran over an officer in his attempt to escape from the scene, leading other police to open fire, killing the man. Well, his mother, Thelma Mackins, alleges that the officers involved used excessive force fueled by racial discrimination when they shot her son. Chief Legal Analyst Clive Rhodes joining us now to talk about this lawsuit. For first, lay out to us what really stands out to you in this case, Khalif, and what do they need to be successful to win this?
It's the standard of care. So first of all, you got to be successful with getting past qualified immunity. That's the major hurdle, which is these law enforcement cases. You don't often see officers charged. You don't see them convicted. You don't see them file lawsuits lawsuits that are successful because of that qualified immunity. We had one most recently with his exact same attorney where it went to the Court of Appeals. Court of Appeals says, no, you do not have qualified immunity. You have to go forward and have trial. They're going to have that trial pretty soon. This case has very similar facts. Well, what's the key facts that's similar there? It's the vehicle. The officers say that they shot at the vehicle, and it's going to be timing. That's what's going to be key for them to win this case, or I should be successful in this case. It's, was the officer in imminent fear of bodily harm? Was there an imminent threat? Did the vehicle have it already passed them? From the officer's testimony, from the investigation, from this complaint, it says that the officer shot the shots after the vehicle had already went past, no longer a threat. And there's long-standing precedent to say that in those situations, an officer is not justified in that type of shooting. And so I think that's probably where this case is going to hinge on, and you'll have to make a determination, in a trier of fact, in this case a jury will make a determination, well, was the officer fearing for his or her safety, or were they in a situation where they should have not shot? I mean, if you look at the facts, it says that one officer emptied an entire magazine, reloaded, and kept shooting, fired 9 rounds from the rear quarter panel as the car accelerated. The third squeezed off and shot from 15 yards away, long after the vehicle had cleared their path. So they're obviously laying the foundation in this complaint that, based on what they've looked at the facts, that this is outside of the scope of being in imminent fear, because the fear or the threat had already passed.
So how does race play a factor in all of this? Well,
they allege a number of things, that he was profiled originally by the complaint in the call, attempting to go out to pick up the children, which he did multiple times on a routine basis. But often here they say they looked at the facts and the history. They said for over a decade, the city of Gastonia had cleared every officer involved shooting of a black civilian as justified, regardless of the facts, that it had never disciplined an officer for deadly force, had never disciplined an officer for excessive force. So that's if they tased them, if they used some dogs on them, if that's anything. However, they said during that same time frame that they looked back, they had punished them for interactions with white civilians, white citizens within that same jurisdiction. So they're saying that these folks did not just go outside of their authority or their jurisdiction, but they also they acted because they believed that there were no consequences for their actions, that I can do this and get away with it because after they do a review, they won't justify the actions because they haven't in the past. That is what they're alleging. They say here he was killed by a city that trained them, empowered them, and promised them they'd never be held responsible. Now, those are the types of things that, yeah, on paper it doesn't sound like much, but when you say that in front of a jury, those are the types of things when you're talking about, well, okay, as a city, is this the case that we're talking about settling? If they can put in front of a jury our history of never bringing these types of complaints forward, and never saying that our officers should be held unjustified in their actions, well, and we've justified the shootings or the excessive force of any type of actions towards our black citizens, that's going to be problematic. So I think those are 2 things they'll attempt to unpack. But this, if we roll it back, this is unfortunate. Yeah. This is a mother that lost her child. This is a situation that probably could have went one of a million different ways, and it ended with the loss of life.
Khalif Rhodes, we appreciate your insight as always. Thank you.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.